Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and today we've got a video kind of wrapping up what has been a pretty eventful and strategic past few days for the Atlanta Hawks. While it's gonna kind of be quiet in the Hawks landscape over the next day or two, it's gonna pick back up pretty quickly, and we're gonna cover it all here on Hawks Latest. So. The NBA draft is officially behind us. Round two concluded last night. 2 rounds, countless trades, and plenty of chaos, obviously, with a lot of it coming from the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks front office approached this year's draft with a clear vision, and they stuck to their plan. And they were bold in the decisions that they made. But today we're going to break down, what the Hawks didn't do in the second round, which was last night, which is okay, and we're going to talk about why it's okay. We're also going to talk about a new addition to the roster in the form of an exciting undrafted free agent. Always an interesting time of year in the little period we get between the draft and free agency. There's a lot of undrafted free agents that find new teams, and a good bit of them turn out to be actual good players in the NBA. So that's always something you've got to watch. And we're going to revisit a name from last year who could still be, he could still play a part next season. A lot of Hawks fans had forgotten about him, but I've seen some buzz about him on Twitter, so I wanted to go ahead and include him in the video and talk about him and his outlook for the future. And then we're going to look ahead to free agency. Where the Hawks may obviously be targeting a few savvy veteran wings to really fill out that bench unit. And there's a new guy that, there's a bit of rumors around right now, not really involving the Hawks, but we're going to kind of relate to, why he could be a potential fit for the Hawks. And that guy is Dorian Finney-Smith from the Los Angeles Lakers. So we're going to talk about him towards the end of this video. So without further ado, let's jump right into it and talk about how the 2025 NBA draft is now officially in the books. So the second round actually wrapped up last night. And while we saw a flurry of movement around the league, the Atlanta Hawks decided to stand pat. And obviously, it was the default move considering they had no second round picks, unlike several of the other previous seasons. There were no trades to move back in from the Hawks, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. As we saw, they narrowed down their selection at 23 the night before. And so they obviously did nothing in the second round. There was a bit of buzz last night, though, which is why I'm kind of making this segment, because all day there was some speculation that Atlanta was still kind of active in trade discussions, and it wasn't noted that it was specifically for a move back up into the draft type of move for maybe if they targeted a guy like Maxime Reynaud or Rasheed Fleming. There was still some whispers regarding Atlanta potentially making another deal. Nothing came to light, and in the end, the Hawks were satisfied with where they stood, at least for now. Obviously, I expect them to still be very more active in the rest of the free agency period leading up to, summer league and everything. But staying pat right now after, an exciting day before draft and NBA draft day, it makes sense. This front office has already been one of the most active in the league over the past few days, and probably the most active. First, the blockbuster move to acquire all-star big man Kristaps Porzingis from the Boston Celtics, and then obviously the draft night swap where Atlanta absolutely fleeced New Orleans. We talked about this all in my previous video, but basically, for those that are unaware, they traded back from 13 to 23, and they also picked up New Orleans' unprotected 2026 pick, just truly one of the most valuable assets an NBA franchise could have right now. Very, very valuable. And with that 23rd pick, they got their guy, Asa Newell, a guy that they had identified as one of their top targets at pick 13. They felt like he could potentially be there at 23. They traded back, and they still landed him. Just a super great value pick. And that's something that it's exciting. A lot of Hawks fans aren't really too happy with it, but they absolutely should be. Newell is a dog, literally and figuratively. But he's a high upside forward with defensive versatility and room to grow on offense. It's clear Atlanta came into the draft with a targeted approach, and they fulfilled that targeted approach. And they're comfortable walking away with just Newell as their sole real rookie contract. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. bringing in 2 rookie scale contracts in one offseason never really seemed like the plan. I was always highly skeptical of Atlanta using both picks 13 and 22 when they originally had 22 and really 13. It never seemed like something that seemed extremely realistic, just considering where the team is at right now. I mean, especially for a team that's just now looking to be competitive in the Eastern Conference next season when the conference is wide open, while still developing that long-term talent. It just seemed like the right idea to bring in one rookie to really focus on being in your rotation next season. It didn't make a lot of sense to then have another first-round rookie contract. And if the Hawks were to trade back up into last night's second round of the NBA draft, it would have been a kind of similar contract to that of a first rounder because it would have been a high second round pick. So with that not happening, there's absolutely no problem. And the Hawks fans still should be excited about what went down over these past few days. So now I'm going to talk about just because the Hawks didn't make any noise during the second round last night doesn't mean the night was completely quiet. So shortly after the final pick was announced was when obviously teams can start signing undrafted free agents, and obviously that negotiating can kind of start before the conclusion of the draft. So the reports from Shams Charania started rolling in about some of these undrafted free agent signings, and while the Hawks weren't involved in the first few reports, they quickly got involved after. So according to Shams, the Hawks have signed Real Madrid big man Eli John Nadaye to a 2-way contract, taking up their second 2-way contract for next year. There's 3 available. Obviously, a team's roster has 15 guys, and they get 3 2-way spots. 2 of those are filled now, so Atlanta just has 1 2-way spot left. The 2 are taken up by Daquan Plowden and now obviously Eli John Nadaye. So basically they'll be able to sign 1 more 2-way going into next season. So Nadaye is a 6'8 center who is just 20 years old. Now, while that might be a little bit undersized, he's going into a perfect situation for an undersized big because there is some familiarity there with this Hawks resume. As it comes to obviously undersized bigs. While his stat sheet might not jump out at you when you really, do a deep dive and try to look for his numbers, none of them are eye-popping, but if you watch his tape, the tools are all there. I mean, he's a strong finisher around the rim. He plays bigger than his size thanks to his bounce and his timing, which has helped him keep up with these bigger players in obviously other leagues than the NBA. Still very high-level competition. He has shown a willingness to step out and shoot from 3. In fact, he has flashed some decent touch from deep and limited action. The percentages don't look too bad. It's not super high volume, but he's willing to take it, and it's been a part of his game that's been growing over the years. He's also coming from, like I said, a high-level program in Real Madrid, one of the best basketball environments outside of the NBA, really. Playing against grown men in Spain's top league has already hardened him defensively and mentally, so it should be a seamless transition from that to the NBA G League and then eventually maybe the NBA. He's not afraid of the moment, and he really can't be, and so he's landing in a perfect spot with his 2-way deal. Nadaye will likely spend a good bit of time next season developing in College Park with the Skyhawks, which is, a great landing spot for someone just coming to the NBA. I mean, the College Park Skyhawks have an incredible developmental program. They've really aided a lot of these young players into becoming solid NBA rotation players. I mean, don't be surprised if he's occasionally called up to the Hawks next season as, we have injury issues always and forever. We've always had to go deep into our 2-way bag mid-season just because, there's always some type of big injury. Let's hope and pray that doesn't happen this year. Let's hope Nadaye does not play with the Atlanta Hawks next season unless it is a blowout of all blowouts going in Atlanta's favor. But it's going to be rare that we're going to see him really on the court, but he could get some valuable experience, with that 2-way kind of rotating between being in Atlanta and being in College Park. So now we're going to move on to a name that might have slipped off your radar because there hasn't been a lot of chatter about him until the recent days, because obviously Atlanta not having a second-round pick has kind of brought him up as a discussion because he was our second-round pick last year, Nikola Jurisic. So we all do we remember the 6'8 Serbian guard that was drafted by the Hawks last season in the second round, but never actually, joined the NBA on a contract. because he was with College Park. And so while he signed obviously a full-time College Park Skyhawks deal, but last season was interesting for him. He had suffered a really brutal injury in the summer league that kind of kept him sidelined for most of the College Park season early on, and developmental priorities really overshadowed his actual on court play. I mean, his draft rights do remain with Atlanta, so in a way Jurisic is almost like having another second round pick this year, and there's a real possibility that into 2025 2026 he's brought into the fold. And I mean, obviously I'm not saying he's going to play real rotation minutes for the Atlanta Hawks, but I mean, if healthy, he could take on a two-way contract and split time between College Park and Atlanta. I think something like that would be beneficial for a player like Jurisic. Last season in his G League competition, he posted averages of 12 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. It wasn't great efficiency, but then again, he had everything stacked up against him next year. He's got all the raw intangibles that you want to see from a player. I mean, a 6'8" guard who really is a great ISO scorer. It's a part of his game that's underappreciated. And really, with a lot of international guards, there's less and less of these guys who can just get a bucket on their own, like we saw from in this past draft. We saw guys like Igor Demin, just guys like that prioritize passing first and are kind of all around wings. Jurisic can get a bucket off the dribble, and he's someone who, if developed correctly, could be lethal in the NBA. There was a lot of hype around him last year. A lot of scouts viewed him as a first round talent in Atlanta, with one of the steals of the draft. So hopefully, all of this comes to light and Jurisic is able to contribute in the rotation one day. It's not going to be next year, but he could be with the ball club a lot more next year, which will be good to see. I mean, he's a capable ball handler, good vision, and brings positional size at the guard spot. He's obviously not a finished product, but for a team looking to add depth on the perimeter without sacrificing much cap flexibility because they're going to be active in free agency in other ways, Jurisic is a low-risk, high-reward option this year, so expect to see him with the ball club more. And so now we're going to move on to what you've probably all been waiting for. With the draft officially over, we can finally start talking really about some free agents that the Hawks could bring in. So the next big milestone is obviously free agency, which, those signings can start getting announced on June 30th. I mean, just a few days away at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're hearing that the Hawks could be active in searching for players in the wing market. Obviously, looking at the depth chart right now, the only real wing that's coming off the bench right now is Vit Krejci, so with obviously Karis LeVert being an unrestricted free agent. So one name to keep an eye on is Dorian Finney-Smith of the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, previously of the Nets and the Mavericks, a very impactful player. He has a player option, which it's now being reported that he is considered declining it and searching for a new deal, whether that's elsewhere or with the Lakers. If he enters unrestricted free agency, the Hawks, I guess, are expected to have some level of interest, just considering all the other prospects that they have. I mean, not prospects, but players they have shown interest in, whether that be in the past or specifically in this new resume. Finney-Smith is the kind of veteran that fits Atlanta's direction perfectly, especially now after adding Kristaps Porzingis. He could seriously bolster that second unit, and it's someone that if he declines his option, opts out, and looks for a new deal, Atlanta should heavily consider. He's tough, selfless, and really proven in the NBA. He's a multi-positional defender who can guard twos, threes, fours. He can guard multiple positions. I mean, last season, he also shot 40% from three. I mean, he's a real threat from the corners and above the break. I mean, he doesn't need the ball to be effective. This is a guy who is built for today's NBA. He doesn't disrupt chemistry. In fact, he enhances it. He's known as a great locker room guy, a great presence to have, and a great veteran presence to have around some of these young guys. I mean, his game could seriously complement the likes of Zachary Risachet and Jalen Johnson on the wing. He could be the kind of tone setter the Atlanta Hawks could use, especially as they work to create a new culture under GM Onzi Soleil and head coach Quinn Snyder. This is something to really consider if you're the Atlanta Hawks. His market value is expected to, I guess, be kind of in the 12 to 15 million range annually. That's kind of the deal I would expect a guy like Finney-Smith to get. I mean, that's something that the Hawks that's within realisticness of the Hawks, being able to submit an offer. They have the mid-level exception where they can sign a player or a combination of players up to $12.8 million. So it's something that is realistic if he were to opt out. Obviously, other names on the Hawks' radar include Nickeil Alexander-Walker, a name that has been mentioned several times in the past few days, specifically after the Porzingis trade. And a lot of insiders were saying, don't be surprised if Atlanta, works at a sign and trade to get Alexander Walker to really bolster that second unit along with Porzingis or Okongwu. He's a versatile combo guard with defensive chops, and like I said, re-signing Karis LeVert's going to be a priority for the Hawks. So he obviously will bring a level of offensive punch off the bench. So I mean, the goal here is clear. Shore up that wing rotation with veterans who complement Trae Young and Dyson Daniels and Jalen Johnson and the rest of the company, especially now that, with that frontcourt core of Porzingis, Okongwu, and Asa Newell is starting to take shape. I mean, Hawks are in a great position, guys. So to recap, the Hawks didn't add a second-round pick, but they came away with their top target, Asa Newell. He fell into their hands at 23. They landed a promising undrafted big in Elijah Nadaye and may soon bring over Nikola Jurisic. They are in a position to make strategic moves in free agency, and it's going to be exciting to cover here on Hawks Latest. I mean, the pieces are starting to come together, and it's going to be fascinating to see how this new-look Hawks roster continues to take shape in a wide-open Eastern Conference next season. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Hawks Latest. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update as we approach free agency. There's going to be a lot to cover, a lot to talk about every single day, and we're going to make sure we upload every single day. So let me know in the comments, who do you want Atlanta to sign in free agency now that we passed the draft? Let me know. I'm going to be covering some of your comments in future videos when free agency gets a little bit closer. So definitely let me know in the comments. I guess I'll see you guys next time. I'm Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and thank you guys for watching.